We've seen this enough now, Alexis, that it's not just a novelty act. This is part of what the season is when we come to the Roval. And frankly, I know there's a lot of varied opinions on it. I enjoy it.
Well,
I think it's a treat.
I was going to say it's actually one of my favorite races for multiple reasons. One, because I think it's a very entertaining race. Two, because the broadcast that we get to do marries, our performance racing network with a lot of guys from IndyCar Radio Network, which I love when we're able to come together in the fall to do that. It's always such a great time. But you're right, Doug. I mean, this race never disappoints. And it started in the very first one with, that what I think now is iconic call from you of Ryan Blaney, driving through the chicane when Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson are spinning. And every year since then, it has delivered, in my opinion.
Brad, at one time it seemed like it was going to become the playground of Chase Elliott. Since this new car has come along, that's sort of tailed off.
Last generation of race car, which won them races at Watkins Glen and the Roval and so on and so forth. But you're right. Look, the next gen car humanized a lot of people in what they were able to do versus when you literally go head to head with everyone. And we've seen some really good races. We've seen some compelling races. Look, remember that a few years ago, Chase Elliott had that little feud going, not rivalry, but actual feud with Kevin Harvick, and it played out to Kevin Harvick's detriment. It also played out to Chase Elliott's detriment and William Byron's, because Chase Elliott had his bumper cover almost all the way knocked off. They let him stay on the racetrack with that thing flapping in the wind. William Byron was leading the race at the time, and when the bumper cover finally came off, well, that took the win away from William Byron. But Christopher Bell, a couple of years ago, winning his way through into the round of 8, and then ultimately winning Martinsville to get through the championship round. I mean, there is compelling storyline after compelling storyline when it comes to the Roval in so many different ways. Heck, the first one wound up in a 3-way tie of who was going to make it to the next round in the playoffs. And these are all the things that I really love about this event.
I know we're not supposed to say the 4-letter word, rain, but there was also one that was a potentially torrential downpour that I thought also was very exciting. I mean, there were so many things that I can point back to in the history of the Roval. I think that was an Xfinity Series race.
It was.
But still, I mean, played out on the Roval, and I think whenever we can race this racetrack, it is always compelling.
I like it. And Brad, let's address some of the changes this year. A little bit of elevation change in the racetrack, but the two biggest ones is the narrowing up and I guess the angle to get in the front stretch chicane is a lot more dramatic now. When you come out of turn 15 into 16, 17, which is the turn back up onto the front stretch, you can't just blast your way through there. That is going to be a genuine passing zone now.
No, you can't. And if you go back in the history, the backstretch chicane got reconfigured to literally make them have to turn the wheel so they couldn't just drive through that. And I think that's what they've done with the front stretch chicane. Heavy braking zones are passing zones. And now the front stretch chicane, even though you had to brake pretty heavily to make that left right there to get back to the start-finish line, well, the drivers have sort of worked their way through that enough that they've made that much more of a smooth transition for them. Now it's going to force them to truly slow down and hit the brakes. Now, do we see someone get shoved through there like Jimmy Johnson did to Martin Truex Jr. in the first ever Roval race? Probably at some point, who knows? And it's a much tighter corner, tight corners, heavy braking zones, action portions of the racetrack.
And Alexis, we do have one true hairpin in the NASCAR series, and that's always been turn 11 at Sonoma. We can add turn 7 now at the Roval.
Yeah, just looking at this layout, and talking to a few guys that we talked to about the Roval at Playoffs Media Day, there's going to be a lot of action in turn 7 here at the Roval. It's tight turn, and that creates a passing zone as well.
I think this one will be highly dramatic. I'm not trying to oversell it because I don't think there's going to be any need to. I don't know how much drama is going to be with the points people trying to get in. I think there's a chasm there between the haves and the have-nots we'll talk about in the next segment. We look forward to bringing you 2 races from the Roval this coming weekend. As Alexis alluded to, we'll have our buddy Doug Turnbull will be up here with us, along with Mark James, who is the anchor for the Indy Radio Network and anchors the Indianapolis 500, and Nick Yeoman will also be here calling turns And I think one of my fondest memories ever in doing any of this was the first year we did the Roval, and we all went up to practice because we didn't know what to expect, and it worked from lap 1 all the way through.
Well, the best part about that, I think, or maybe the worst, I don't know, if you go back and listen to the tape, was I can't remember. Somebody couldn't be here. Maybe it was Nick or Mark, and I actually put on some turn headsets, and it
was awesome.
It was a crash. It was bad. It was bad news bears. I've never done it again because it wasn't so great, but a fond memory nonetheless.
Never say never.
Yeah,
never yet.
Yeah, never
yet.
yet.
Yeah, never yet. So we do have a lot of fun with that race. It is a fun race to broadcast because it is so segmented. I think the entertainment value will be high up, and I think everybody needs to know how to say Shane Van Gisbergen before this race starts.
I think so
Because
too.
saying cheating and saying SVG is not going to be allowed.
And there's a good chance he could play spoiler.
All right, Brad, do we let people
On
just
Saturday,
say Van Gisbergen, or do they have to say
Well,
the
his
whole-
last name is Van Gisbergen.
Okay.
So
Is he
I
not
think
running the
that's
Cup
fine.
race?
He is not running
Oh,
Sunday.
he's
no.
not.
Defending winner A.J. Allmendinger will be in the Kaulig car. Shane Van Gisbergen will be looking to advance to the round of 8, which he is in a must-win situation, being below the cut line Saturday.
You heard it here first, folks.
I-
I thought for sure.
I,
he'd
Yeah,
run
they
the
I
Roval.
think,
skipped
I think
this
that's
one.
a missed opportunity, by the way.
I do too.
I can't go any other way on that. You have arguably the best road racer on the planet, and you're going to let him stay home that day? Mistake.
I think in favor of the defending winner driving that car.
Put both of them in there. You got
I'm
a lot
with
of
you.
money.
I'm
Spend
with
it.
you.
Come on.
He'll be at Vegas,
Put that
though.
out there. It's easy for me to say. Don't spend your money before you go to Vegas.